Okay, welcome to Director's Notes, everyone. We're continuing our Oscars coverage today by talking to Nicolas Keppens, whose wonderful short film, Beautiful Men, is one of the five titles battling it out for the Best Animated Short Film Award. So thanks for joining us today, Nicolas.
Thank you for inviting me. Very happy to talk.
Let's jump straight in and talk about Beautiful Men. Unfortunately, the film isn't yet available online, so many of our audience wouldn't have seen it unless they've been to a festival. Can you introduce the plot to your short and talk a little bit about where the idea for the story came from?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So Beautiful Man is basically a short film about three balding brothers going to Istanbul to get a hair transplant. And there they are together in the hotel, and small troubles and emotions that they or feelings that they could have since a long time, or how to say, bottling up,
Yeah,
because um, them being there together, and also because of their situation, trying to solve their insecurities. So that's the main theme, or the plot. And I've got the idea since I went to Istanbul, I think in 2018. I was there for work, and I was in a hotel that worked together with a hair clinic. Um,
okay.
so so we didn't know it, but in the morning we went to breakfast with some colleagues, and we saw a whole breakfast room filled with bald men. It was really silent, not at
Yeah,
all the room that you could expect with only men in it on a trip. It's really a silent room. You felt that there was some tension because of, yeah, the a trip to solve your insecurities, or trying to solve some insecurities. And it was a very touching thing to see. And as my brother and I both are balding, it's something I could relate to in a
yeah, yeah,
way. So I wanted to talk about also a type of manhood that wasn't that was more close to how I feel, more often than things I've seen in other films. Not that I'm doing something new or something, but it's just a way of looking for a tender image of manhood, showing also all the insecurities.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, it really is a beautiful piece of storytelling. It is very touching and tender, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about it. But it's also there's like a surreal humor running through it. And I know comedy's kind of always present in your work from watching your from your earlier films. So how did you work on getting that balance between the kind of tenderness and the emotions and the more comedic moments right?
Um, yeah, it's not something that I do on purpose, or that I'm really looking for a balance. I think it's just how uh, I try to tell story, or when I'm trying to tell stories, that's the tone in a way.
Yeah,
Whether some people would write more naturally, even more um, surreal or with more comedy, and others would make it more, yeah, I don't know, emotional or dramatic. And I think that's just the tone that goes naturally when I make something. But I think it's in any case also looking for a kind of um, tone that I relate to easily, in a way that life is full of small drama, but also um, it's funny when we talk about films and we say they are realistic films, or
yeah,
social realism in films, that it's often without surreal, absurd humor or things
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
where life is full of it, even in the most horrifying moments in our life. There are funny things, maybe not for you, but for people seeing it,
yeah,
that are happening.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's good to know. Um, so one of the things I'm interested in is Beautiful Men's obviously a very specific story. Um, and the specifics of the story might not be something that everyone would relate to, but I think at the core of the story, it's very relatable. Like you've mentioned quite a few of the themes already. It's about kind of insecurity and vulnerability. So was there a particular message you wanted to get across with the film? Something you wanted the audience to take away from watching it?
I think it's a, m- a more tender way to look at insecurities and images that also could, or that are often very present in being human, and maybe more particularly in being a man. I don't know, but I think it's kind of it's also an image. Not that I give the image, or that my image is more common. It's just an alternative to all the possible images that we could make of manhood, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so let's talk about how Beautiful Men looks for a minute. Because again, I've been following your work for a while. I think ever since I saw Wieldy Beast, probably about 6 years ago, I reckon. And then after that, you've had Easter eggs,
Yeah,
two films I really love. But both of those films were 2D animation, and obviously Beautiful Men is stop motion. So what
yeah.
made you want to make that transition for this story?
At the beginning, Beautiful Man was also a 2D project because it's what I was used to make. But then when we got production money or support, I rewrote the story a bit with the script coach, and suddenly the story became uh, way more about loneliness and the insecurities, but also um, the how tactile the
Yeah,
is it the yeah
yeah, that's
how
right.
tactile the skulls and the people in the film are, and of course it's possible to do in 2D, but I did so with what I'm capable of doing. I tried a lot of things, and while I was sculpting puppets, it easily was, or it was way more easy to me to make an image that spoke to itself about loneliness, about the skulls that are silicon skulls, and that really represent the skin of the bald
Yeah.
main characters. So we changed because of the story that changed, and I was looking for the best medium to tell it, which was at that time for me stop motion.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it works. It works beautifully with the story. Um, and am I right in thinking this is your first stop motion film? Was it your
Yeah,
first time
yeah,
working in
yeah,
stop
yeah,
motion? Yeah.
yeah,
So how
yeah.
how did you find that how did you find that transition of work going from 2D to stop motion?
Oh, it's amazing. I really like doing it. Um, it's also a more physical way to tell stories, less behind the computer, more, yeah, like building the sets and being together with the animators. It's also the fact that we were obliged to come together to make the film. Where when you make a 2D film, people could be in their own separate room and
Yeah.
they send every evening the animation they made. It's not possible with stop motion. I think it's still the best way to tell stories when you do it in a team. It's still the best way to talk to each other from, yeah, today I had this shot and I am, maybe it could be nice if this main character has this particular way of moving, or I don't know, of speaking, or a tick that would be cool to do, and then we could discuss it together. And so I think it makes that you that the film could get richer because of the people talking to each other more easily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. More of
I
a.
really liked it.
And do you plan to work in stop motion again in the future?
I'd like to. I'm working on a new short which is in 2D, but I'm also working on a feature project, and that would be stop motion,
Right.
if possible.
Yeah. I know from following the success of the film and following your Instagram account, um, a lot of people share my love of the character design in your short film. I know you posted a great Instagram post with people on Letterboxd commenting on the nudity in the film. So can you provide a little insight into how you came to the final design for the three brothers and how you made the puppets?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I made some sketches in the beginning, but very soon I saw that I needed to make it in 3D to really work. So I sculpted the brothers in Blender, and then the 3D prints went to a company in the Netherlands that makes puppets for stop motion, and
Yeah,
they started to work with the prints. And I tried a lot of things, and it was Koen and Bart um, that were the first characters that I managed to do, and I was really inspired by the sculptures of Botero. Fernando Botero is an Italian sculptor and painter, and he makes this really round figures with round heads and small eyes and small features
yeah,
in the big round faces. And it was the day that I was like looking through this book of Botero, I thought, oh, that would work with the bald heads, I think,
yeah.
because yeah, these cultures, you really want to caress them because they are so, the heads are so round, and so it worked for me, and that was more or less the start for the characters.
Yeah, and they really do have a, I know you mentioned the word earlier, but a very tactile nature, which I really love. I think it really helps you kind of associate with the characters more, and it gives another kind of level of authenticity to the film. So another element of production I'm interested in, and you've got the still from the film behind you there, is I'm interested in the fog. So I mean, what was the decision to include that in the story, and how did you go about creating it from a production point of view?
Um, there are the fog is something that comes from different, or because of different reasons. There is this element in it. One reason is so we went from 2D to stop motion, and when the film was in 2D, the brothers it was less about loneliness. So the brothers were visiting Istanbul together and having kind of an adventure there. But then suddenly it was in stop motion and making Istanbul or the streets of Istanbul in sets. It's
Yeah,
super expensive. So I thought, yeah, well, why not having this element of fog that makes it
masks it.
unnecessary?
Clever.
But then there is also this thing where I wanted to talk about the the brothers not being able to push the story forward. So every time something has to evolve in the story, they are not able to do it, which is a bit of a contrast with a lot of films where that are very plot driven, but also the plot is very driven by the decision of man in a lot of films. So I wanted to talk about these insecurities and this other image, and so I was thinking, what if I have this kind of Deus ex machina element where every time they are not able, there is something like the fog that helps them. Like, for instance, the moment uh, Steven doesn't dare to talk to Bart about his problems, or
Yeah,
the problem of not having a reservation, there is the fog making the 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 space more abstract, with where the hammam becomes also the outside, and the other way. Also the fire is also just the fog coming into the hotel, which is a way of telling, okay, even at the end, they didn't take a decision, and still there are not enough reservations. So we have to have a solution, and then there is the fog. So the fog is kind of helping the story because the main characters are not able to do it.
can't do it themselves. Yeah. And how did
Yeah.
you create the fog from a production point of view?
It's a very simple trick. So, in some shots where the characters are not animated, we just used smoke machines. And in most of the shots or in the shots where there is animation, I built it kind of an infini. It's
Oh yeah, and
a
like a
wall, a banded wall
yeah,
that gives the impression that it's like that there is no ground and not a wall neither. And
yeah,
I just put a white filter over it. That's the trick. Very cheap, but the graphic side to it, I really liked it. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It looks really great. Um,
thank you.
so I mean, what obviously the reason we're talking today mainly is because the film's been nominated for an Oscar. And I know from following your Instagram account, you've already been preparing for the Oscars with limo trips and champagne drinking. But I wanted to know, like, for a filmmaker, what does Academy Award recognition mean for you?
Oh, it's a funny thing because when you're a kid, or you think about making films and you're not doing it, you think about an Oscar, and the day you start making films, you never think about it anymore until the
Yeah,
day that it happens that you get nominated. It's like, I think, when you're a good singer as a kid, you think about being the new, I don't know, Billie Eilish, and then
yeah,
you get the career in singing, and you understand that I'm not Billie Eilish, but I'm doing my thing. And then one day, by doing your thing, you get maybe a Grammy Award, and you can sit in the room with Billie Eilish. And it's a strange thing, because it's for the first time in years that I think about an Oscar.
yeah,
Yeah, um, it's something that I can't really believe that I know from seeing movies about it, and I'm super curious to see what it's like to be over there, and yeah, but I
yeah.
have no clue.
Yeah,
Not
I bet it's
super
going to be
happy.
a strange but exciting experience. And
Yeah.
I was talking to Loic, the director of Yuck, one of the other films that's nominated, and he said it's really nice to be able to have something that your family understands in terms of recognition. you win film festival awards, and it's like, okay, people in the film industry know what they mean, but for like the general public, people outside of the film industry, everyone knows what an Oscar is. So, it's something you can tell anyone in your family and they'll be excited. All right, final question. And you've touched on these a little bit already, but what does your future hold beyond the Oscars? You got any future projects you can tell us about?
So I'm working on a short film which is called Trompe-l'œil, and it's a bit in the style, but maybe with a more uh, complex narrative. It's more in the style of Easter eggs and in the tone of Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm also working on the script and the visual elements already a bit for a feature film, which is called for the moment the False Hero, and it's a kind of a comedy horror in Norway, based in Norway, again with uh, people maybe a bit like Beautiful Man traveling to Norway and getting into trouble in the woods over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's really exciting to just going step by step and see where it brings where it brings me. But I really like trying to tell a longer story too. It's another kind of, it's almost another medium, but
Yeah.
it's great to try.
Sounds like it's exciting times. So thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoy all the excitement around the Oscars. Keep enjoying those limousine rides. Keep enjoying that champagne. We'll have our fingers crossed for you
Thank
when the
you.
Oscar awards are obviously announced. But yeah, just thank you so much for joining us to talk about Beautiful Men. It's a film we really love.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.